Speed provides the one genuinely modern pleasure. Feast must be solemn and rare, or else they cease to be feasts. What is absurd and monstrous about war is that men who have no personal quarrel should be trained to murder one another in cold blood. The vast majority of human beings dislike and even actually dread all notions with which they are not familiar. Hence it comes about that at their first appearance, innovators have generally been persecuted and always derided as fools and madmen. If human beings were shown what they were really like, they'd either kill one another as vermin or hang themselves. There is no substitute for talent. Industry and all its virtues are of no avail. That we are not much sicker and much madder than we are is due exclusively to that most blessed and blessing of all natural graces, sleep. An exciting truth may be eclipsed by a thrilling lie. Man is an intelligence in servitude to his organs. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you mad. Words, words, words. They shut one off from the universe. 3/4 of the time one's never in contact with things, only with the beastly words that stand for them. Specialized meaninglessness has come to be regarded in certain circles as a kind of hallmark of true science. The proper study of mankind is books. The impulse to cruelty is in many people almost as violent as the impulse to sexual love, almost as violent and much more mischievous. Dream in a pragmatic way. Several excuses are always less convincing than one. Everyone who wants to do good to the human race always ends in universal bullying. Sons have always a rebellious wish to be disillusioned by that which charmed their fathers. You should hurry up and acquire the cigar habit. It's one of the major happinesses, and so much more lasting than love, so much less costly in emotional wear and tear. Writers write to influence their readers, their preachers, their auditors, but always at bottom to be more themselves. A democracy which makes or even effectively prepares for modern scientific war must necessarily cease to be democratic. No country can be really well prepared for modern war unless it is governed by a tyrant, at the head of a highly trained and perfectly obedient bureaucracy. That all men are equal is a proposition to which at ordinary times no sane human being has ever given his assent. Experience is not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens to you. A man may be a pessimistic determinist before lunch and an optimistic believer in the will's freedom after it. Children are remarkable for their intelligence and ardor, for their curiosity, their intolerance of shams, the clarity and ruthlessness of their vision. So long as men worship the Caesars and Napoleons, Caesars and Napoleons will duly arise and make them miserable. Your true traveler finds boredom rather agreeable than painful. It is the symbol of his liberty, his excessive freedom. He accepts his boredom when it comes, not merely philosophically, but almost with pleasure. It was one of those evenings when men feel that truth, goodness, and beauty are one. In the morning, when they commit their discovery to paper, when all others read it written there, it looks wholly ridiculous. There's only one corner of the universe you can be certain of improving, and that's your own self. A bad book is as much a labor to write as a good one. It comes as sincerely from the author's soul. To his dog, every man is Napoleon. Hence the constant popularity of dogs. One of the great attractions of patriotism, it fulfills our worst wishes. In the person of our nation we are able, vicariously, to bully and cheat. Bully and cheat. What's more, with a feeling that we are profoundly virtuous. My fate cannot be mastered. It can only be collaborated with, and thereby to some extent directed. Nor am I the captain of my soul. I am only its noisiest passenger. Most ignorance is vincible ignorance. We don't know because we don't want to know. Hell isn't merely paved with good intentions. It's walled and roofed with them, yes, and furnished too. Like every other good thing in this world, leisure and culture have to be paid for. Fortunately, however, it is not the leisured and the cultured who have to pay. The more powerful and original a mind, the more it will incline towards the religion of solitude. After silence, that which comes nearest to expressing the inexpressible is music. Orthodoxy is the die-hard of the world of thought. It learns not, neither can it forget. Science has explained nothing. The more we know, the more fantastic the world becomes, and the profounder the surrounding darkness. The most shocking fact about war is that its victims and its instruments are individual human beings, and that these individual beings are condemned by the monstrous convictions of politics to murder, or be murdered in quarrels not their own. Like every man of sense and good feeling, I abominate work. Amour is the one human activity of any importance in which laughter and pleasure preponderate, if ever so slightly over misery and pain. The finest works of art are precious among other reasons because they make it possible for us to know, if only imperfectly and for a little while, what it actually feels like to think subtly and feel nobly. A childlike man is not a man whose development has been arrested. On the contrary, he is a man who has given himself a chance of continuing to develop long after most adults have muffled themselves in the cocoon of middle-aged habit and convention. Happiness is a hard master, particularly other people's happiness. There is only one corner of the universe you can be certain of improving, and that's your own self. Defined in psychological terms, a fanatic is a man who consciously overcompensates a secret doubt. An intellectual is a person who's found one thing that's more interesting than sex. What we feel and think and are is to a great extent determined by the state of our ductless glands and viscera. Chastity, the most unnatural of all the sexual perversions. Experience teaches only the teachable. The most valuable of all education is the ability to make yourself do the thing you have to do when it has to be done, whether you like it or not. People intoxicate themselves with work so they won't see how they really are. Most human beings have an almost infinite capacity for taking things for granted. Every man's memory is his private literature. Those who believe that they are exclusively in the right are generally those who achieve something. There is something curiously boring about somebody else's happiness. We are all geniuses up to the age of 10. The propagandist's purpose is to make one set of people forget that certain other sets of people are human. There are things known, and there are things unknown, and in between are the doors of perception. Great is truth, but still greater, from a practical point of view, is silence about truth. By simply not mentioning certain subjects, totalitarian propagandists have influenced opinion much more effectively than they could have by the most eloquent denunciations. There isn't any formula or method. You learn to love by loving, by paying attention and doing what one thereby discovers has to be done. Official dignity tends to increase in inverse ratio to the importance of the country in which the office is held. To travel is to discover that everyone is wrong about other countries. Habit converts luxurious enjoyments into dull and daily necessities. The secret of genius is to carry the spirit of the child into an old age, which means never losing your enthusiasm. Thought must be divided against itself before it can come to any knowledge of itself. It's with bad sentiments that one makes good novels. I wanted to change the world, but I have found that the only thing one can be sure of changing is oneself. We participate in a tragedy. At a comedy, we only look. The most distressing thing that can happen to a prophet is to be proved wrong. The next most distressing thing is to be proved right. A belief in hell and the knowledge that every ambition is doomed to frustration at the hands of a skeleton have never prevented the majority of human beings from behaving as though death were no more than an unfounded rumor. What with making their way and enjoying they have won, heroes have no time to think. But the sons of heroes, Oh, they have all the necessary leisure. Idealism is the noble toga that political gentlemen drape over their will to power. Man approaches the unattainable truth through a succession of errors. Maybe this world is another planet's hell. I'm afraid of losing my obscurity. Genuineness only thrives in the dark, like celery. A fanatic is a man who consciously overcompensates a secret doubt. Beauty is worse than wine. It intoxicates both the holder and the beholder. Cynical realism is the intelligent man's best excuse for doing nothing in an intolerable situation. Europe is so well guarded that it resembles a work of art, a scientific theory, a neat metaphysical system. Man has recreated Europe in his own image. My father considered a walk among the mountains as the equivalent of church-going. Technological progress has merely provided us with more efficient means of going backwards. The author of Iliad is either Homer or, if not Homer, somebody else of the same name. It takes two to make a murder. There are born victims, born to have their throats cut, as the cutthroats are born to be hanged. Proverbs are always platitudes, until you have personally experienced the truth of them. The quality of moral behavior varies in inverse ratio to the number of human beings involved. Facts do not cease to exist because they are ignored.